So, welcome everybody to our third and last meeting for the Central Asia. And today we have Sanjay, again, the coordinator of CAN South Asia, Climate Action Network South Asia. And today's topic is, well, how to influence the people in power, how to do advocacy, but a subtle advocacy in our region, and why does it have to be so? And maybe what are the peculiarities of our situation, and why can't we do the advocacy in a traditional, maybe European way or something like that. So let's discuss that. And Sanjay, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Olga. Thank you, everyone. I have been told that I need to be slow and translation may not be required, so that's fine. So before I go through my slides, 15, 16 slides, I just wanted to share, this is an experience we have learned for last few years. I remember, in early days of CANSA, we were very much influenced with CAN Europe, US CAN, and the way most of the big logos or NGOs have been working on influencing decision makers. And of course, bigger machinery, and those are the organizations with good resources. And we felt that oh, that's the way. Let's call them off. Let's challenge them. Whatever these decisions are being taken are not good. We should challenge them. We should actually ask them to do better, etc., etc. But as and when our interactions started happening with policymakers in developing countries, we realized that in developed countries, the approach could be different, or the one that we observed earlier, and we were very much influenced. But in the developing country, approach need to be very different. It need to start from the other end of the dialogue, of creating a dialogue first. And why? Because one, in developing countries, policies are being framed, they're still evolving, they're still being put in place. Programs are being implemented, still no results have come out, or very minimum results are there. Not only that, even the successes or failures are being evaluated. And these policymakers, though they want to do good, few of them actually at least, but then they're willing to learn. So we found that they could be very good partners. They're willing to learn from you, but as long as you do not ask them to go into their shell. So basically, when you start challenging them, that's when they go into shell. They use their rule book, they use their position to defend themselves, and that's it. That's the closure of interaction. And that's when we started other way around. So in my slides, I'm going to make a case why a subtle advocacy is important, which can also be termed as constructive advocacy. So when we say this is wrong, we also tell them why it is wrong and what is wrong in it and how it can be improved. So it has to be more on that basis. And then they are willing to have a dialogue with you and all that. So having said that, first of all, let's talk about why advocacy for CANSA. Of course, bring policy change towards climate-friendly solutions, frame and amplify pro-people solutions, especially what we have also seen that most of the decision makers sitting in their ministries or in their departments in powerful positions, they think that they know everything, and things are same when they were in the field in earlier years of their professional career, and now they can decide based on that exposure. But a lot more has changed during the time when they have come into a decision-making power, and that's when there is a complete disconnect between what they decide and what is required at the ground level. And of course, advocacy is also to strengthen 3 pillars of sustainable development. If you'll see CANSA's mission, our mission on one side is, of course, create a powerful or empower civil society. But the most important part is advocacy, basically to influence the design and development of effective global strategy to reduce greenhouse gases. When we say global here, because South Asia is part of CAN, we also meant regional and national for us. So reduce greenhouse gas emissions and ensures implementation at national and local level for us is very important. And of course, making argument equity argument and sustainable development as a way forward is also requires certain degree of advocacy because explaining equity, demystifying equity is not an easy task for people in power. So they don't understand that. For them, they are working for poor. What else you mean by equity? And that's where a lot more dialogue and discussions are required. Now, in these two parts, on one side, when we are talking about implementation, work needs to be done. The most difficult part has been reduction in greenhouse gas emissions, because that means moving away from conventional uh, uh, source of energy, and that means challenging many big businesses to change the way they have invested money. So when it comes to money, people become more protective, people become more defensive, and they also become aggressive by taking revenge if you challenge them too much or threaten their brand or their way of business. Uh, so if you look at advocating in developing countries, some of the lessons are that naming and shaming do not work always. You cannot name and shame them and then hope that they'll come and sit with you and talk to you. No, they will go into their shell, as I said, and they won't talk to you. They will consider you as an enemy, as someone who keeps on criticizing, but they are not willing to listen to them. So at many places, and I'm going to quote some examples in my our inputs has been very constructive inputs, and they welcome that. Of course, when we tell them that, look, this is the way you need to do because these are the situation on ground and these are our logical reasons, they listen to you. They will challenge you. They will ask you questions. Basically, that is the way that they are testing your content knowledge. How much you know, how much you are strong in your technical knowledge. If you're strong, they'll respect you. If you're not, they will certainly try to find an escape route, and they will try to go out of it. So certainly you need to establish credibility on content, because that draws attention of policymakers. In CANSA South Asia, my colleagues from CANSA is here in this call also. We keep receiving messages, mails, and calls also to seek our views, and that's it. They seek our views. They ask some technical knowledge, some reports that they can refer, some gist of a report they can get, which they can use for their day-to-day functioning, and that's it. So they accept technical inputs, but I think in return, don't expect that they will acknowledge your inputs publicly. No, they will not. Don't expect that if they take a decision based on the technical knowledge received from you, they say, I would like to thank CANSA South Asia for really helping us. No, that acknowledgement will not be made public. That's their work. So, which is fine. So the compromise for us is, as long as we have been able to feed in our technical information, research, and knowledge into policy framework, and it has improved further, that's a prize for us, rather than our name being acknowledged by them. So of course, we gain attention and respect, but not acknowledgement. And that actually helps us to build long-term relationships with them, and then they keep coming to you for long-term interventions. They also seek some kind of partnerships we can build in. So this is a subtle approach that has worked in developing countries in South Asia a lot. And as I said, one of the major reason is that they are also on a learning curve. They are not yet at a very mature level where decisions will be apt. They'll be challenged. They'll try to improve them. They will take your critical or criticism. I will not say constructive inputs. They will take your criticism positively, and then they would say, okay, all right, we are willing to make the changes. So that kind of advocacy doesn't work in developing countries. These two statements here. In developed countries, criticism works, while in developing country, criticism closes doors. So choice is ours. Whether we want to do advocacy, we can do advocacy, and we can keep standing outside, keep shouting banners and all that. That's fine. Some media will cover it. There'll be pressure after some time. A lot of energy will go, and then there may be some slight change, but then we won't make partners. We won't make allies. We'll make more enemies, because next time anywhere they see that you are wrong, they'll come after you. So here, and in developing country, it's more about working together. And another reason is criticism is not taken in a very positive spirit in developing countries. There is a revenge attitude that comes in. I'm not criticizing developing country. The reason I'm saying this is because the democratic institutions are not very strong, or they're still evolving in developing countries compared to developed countries. For example, if one ministry doesn't do, or doesn't, or take your criticism in a negative form and try to go for a revenge or some kind of action, administrative action, then at least there are judiciary or other democratic institutions where you can go and make an appeal, and you can make your case, and they're willing to listen to you and all that. So in developing countries, developed countries, democratic institutions are very strong, and they act as a balance. In developing countries, they're still evolving. I'm not saying they're not there, but they're still evolving. And that's why allies approach has worked very well here. Let me go, and before, this is one slide, one example I want to share. A few years back, Santosh is online. What we also try to understand, what is people's narrative about climate change. And that actually helped us to reach out to the power people on power on how to present climate change. You talk to them about IPCC, you talk to them about AR5 or IP or UNFCCC or SB, etc., etc. They would understand. Language is completely different. And this is the project that we did with CAN International, and it really opened our eyes on how to do advocacy in a more constructive manner. We learned to start speaking their own language, and then we could interact with them very regularly and in a more comfortable manner. And we got a lot of response also. General observations we found is climate change has many meanings, and for different people. Similarly, for powerful people, decision makers, it's how to mitigate a disaster. That's in their mind. And when they say disaster, then an incoming cyclone or flood situations that is coming up, or drought situations that are there. They don't think long term. No, at least on adaptation resilience, long term is requires a different kind of interventions. So when we gave them short term solutions, how to do that, and also provide our coordination support, they started talking to us for the long term solutions also. It's real, it's here, it's now, we are causing it. That message has gone to them. And when we told them that, look, this is a situation you're going to face every month, that's when they were keen to listen to us and find a solution on a long-term basis. That means exploring or reviewing the standard operating procedures, how to update them. That means reviewing the infrastructure that is available, whether that it will withstand the extreme weather events due to climate change. So they started looking into that. They opened it. They, of course, remember, no acknowledgement. Keep it local. As local it is, it's better for communication. It's also better for action, because it's one or two people who are deciding there. In most of the South Asian countries, it's the district magistrate or collector level, where people, and they are very powerful people with a lot of resources at their disposal, and they can take decisions immediately. They don't want any problem in their courtyard. That's their courtyard. They don't want any problem there. So certainly they would like to keep things in control. And if you convince them, they are willing to work with you. And we are working at the district level because of effective communication from us. Target youth. Of course, that was also part of the study, but and build conversation around pollution and later to climate change. But this is when we started talking to them and said, look, climate change and all that, even public did not supported our narrative, because public said, okay, climate change, maybe it's a much bigger phenomena than that we can foresee, so forget it. And that acted as an escape door for decision makers not to do anything. But when we started relating climate change impact on day-to-day things, food security, water security, temperature, energy needs, that's when it started ringing bell, and they said, okay, we need to do something about it. Focus impact on food, farmers, and nature was the another thing. What does not work? As I said earlier, blaming government, corporations, or the rich, talk about misuse of power, they go into their shell. They lock themselves. They don't want to talk to you. Also, do not assume people associate coal and electricity generation. No, for them, electricity is coming. But, and as of now, businesses, big fossil fuel industry has really showed coal as the solution, not as a problem. And we have to show that as a problem. So our advocacy, directly criticizing coal, boomerang on us. But if it is about uh, creating pollutions, destructing forest, and then also greenhouse gas emission accumulation atmosphere, and how electricity generation will not still be compromised if coal phase out happens. They also want to listen the solutions along with the problem. What is the alternative? Then they are willing to. But if you say you go and find a solution, we don't care. But what you are using is a problem. It won't help. They won't talk to you. Indian world leadership talk about regional issues. So nationalist feeling and all that. So you can talk about how India is playing a negative role. Then they will again go back into their shell. So there are few things which is certainly boomerang, and one need to be careful about that. I saw some. Ola, let me know if you need to uh, intervene somewhere. I can see a message on in Russian.
Yes,
In
yes, I
local.
was just writing that the
Two
participants
questions.
could
Okay,
ask
you can
questions.
translate them later on. All right.
But I will have two small questions when you finish also.
Fair enough. No problem. Okay. So one example here, state level. In India, we have been talking about we need to mainstream climate change in development. We need to do something about it. And unless climate change actions are integrated with development, we will not have resilience. We will not have low carbon development. State government used to listen to us. They used to offer us tea, coffee, cookies, and they say, "Okay, great, yes, you're doing good, excellent, thank you," and go back. And no response. That's when we started talking to UNICEF, and we said, look, we have to do something about it. It won't help. So they said, why can't we, give them alternatives? How do we do that? How about we prepare capacity building modules? We provide them training on how to do mainstreaming rather than just demanding mainstreaming. And how to do mainstreaming is your baby, we don't care. So that's where we started working on capacity building modules for government departments. We interacted with them. We reviewed their policies also. And this is one example how we organized consultation with the State Department. We spoke to them. That was the first opportunity for us where we realized the level of knowledge they have about climate change. They are very strong on local issues. They know how to find solutions. They know how to find ways to move ahead. But translating climate change into development agenda, no idea. But when we started talking to them how to do that, you know, in terms of wash issues, in terms of education, nutrition, because women and children were the focus, that's when they said yes. That's when we told them that your so and so schemes are good, but you need to go extra mile to make them climate resilient. Not only schemes act as a safety net, but schemes are also protected from climate change impact. And that's when and we actually implemented carried out this in few states in India, and that was very good initiative. And today I must say that state action plans and all these manuals are part of their training schedule every year in these states. They basically go through these trainings. And so our work is done. We prepared capacity building modules, we handed over to them, and we imparted trainings to them. And they were, and in fact, we imparted in a manner that it's a training of trainers. They took it, and now whenever we go to Kerala or Uttar Pradesh or Odisha, we have allies, we have departments who are willing to talk to us, who want to learn more from us. So that's we could have, so you can just see slight change in the approach, and we found allies, we found partners, and our content has gone to the next level of advocacy, through advocacy. Advocating effective implementation. We all know that how we all actually how hard we all work to have Paris Agreement. National determined contributions has been anchored into Paris Agreement. We are very enthusiastic and we are very happy and we are hopeful that by 2030 all national determined contribution will be achieved, will be implemented effectively. But when we started looking inside, we realized that these national determined contributions need to be translated into plans, and those plans need to be more into an implementable plan. So that's where you can see when we started talking to some states, they said, what do you mean by local level plans? We told them about Nepal, there's a LAPA, local action plan on adaptation. They said, we don't get it. So that's when we prepared these two district level plans, these are very thin books. You just for policy practitioner, all they need to do is just take it from with them to the wherever every day, and then see which area they are working, what kind of activities need to be done, and they implement it. They don't apply brain there, because when you are in field, you are more into action mode compared to planning mode. So planning is done. So policy making has been responsibility of central ministries, federal structure we have. Implementation mandate is a subnational level, and that's where converting policy into plan require technical knowledge. So that technical knowledge came from us. NGOs played that role enthusiastically, and now we have many policy practitioners in these two districts who are referring it. So that was one way to ensure effective implementation through advocacy, subtle advocacy. Prioritizing climate change, as you can see, I'm showing you three. I mean, there are few. These are thematic things. So before I present these slides, 3-4 slides on this, let me also tell you, in 2010-11, after Copenhagen COP collapsed, we all were under shock, and we were confused, because that's when many of the member organizations started interpreting outcome as a win, as no win, as a failure. And we said, look, this won't help. We have to have a common understanding based on thematic issues. What does thematic issues means? And that's when we started coming out with some technical papers on agriculture, on energy, more on South Asian context, not globally. We didn't convert any of the document into regional. No, we generated our own. We engaged our member organizations. They came in, and that was also a time when we didn't have any resources. So this is an advocacy internally within a network. We didn't have any resources, no money. We said, look, we can provide you coordination support. We cannot pay you for what knowledge you bring on the table, but we can compile it and we can have you all, acknowledge that you have contributed technically here. And this will also help us to clarify our stand. And that's when we started coming out with technical paper. Of course, this loss and damage paper came after 2012, because 2012 Doha COP loss and damage became a major issue. So everyone wanted to know, when we came back, said, look, CANSA need to tell us what does loss and damage means for us. So we came out with a loss and damage, climate-induced loss and damage in South Asia as a paper. Then after that, they said, okay, understood, but how do we communicate to our policymakers? Because when we talk to them on loss and damage, they says, adaptation. You mean adaptation? It's not loss and damage, it's adaptation. Nobody could get an idea that habitat can have permanent damages to the or ecosystems can be damaged beyond repair. And that's when we organized a workshop on capacity building of policymakers and practitioners on loss and damage. That was in 2015 in Colombo. We, of course, also organized capacity building workshops in Nepal, in India, and Sri Lanka, national level also, and subnational level in few states in India also. And that's when we explained to them the difference between adaptation, resilience, and loss and damage, what needs to be done. So that was 2012, 2015, and this was 2020. We came out with a loss and damage handbook in partnership with ActionAid, which is a very good reference document. It's there on our website also. You all can refer it. So you can see the technical knowledge has gone from one basic technical paper to a capacity building module, to the handbook for those who want to have a ready reference document in their hand. So it has moved, and in fact, I should also say, and there in my next slides, about how beyond loss and damage, we're also working on climate-induced migration now. So preparing advocates, shared understanding and common positions, and technically strong NGOs. And technically strong NGOs has really, gave us a lot of leverage to work with policymakers. They have really come to us, and they really want to learn from us on these aspects. CANSA on climate finance. As you can see, this is again 2012. We had a financing, adaptation, and mitigation in South Asia. We came up with a technical paper. Then people said, okay, if this is how the climate finance, we also advocated here that climate finance also need to be mobilized domestically. You cannot rely on international aid. So that was the position we already took, because we knew not enough aid will flow to the developing country. So work towards self-sufficiency of climate finance. And then all about climate finance in South Asia. We came out with a full guide on how climate finance can be accessed, how additionality need to be defined. In fact, I should have put there are more advanced versions of capacity building modules on climate finance. In fact, I can show you one. You can see here, this is the one where we worked with the national implementing entity. We did a capacity building module on how to prepare adaptation fund or green climate fund compliant proposals also. So we work on them also. So that was us on climate finance. We documented positions based on analysis. We also looked at bilateral aid. We also looked at multilateral aid. And of course, our positions have evolved. In fact, there is a capacity building module we can share with you. And then there is also a capacity building, a complete package. We have imparted training to many state level departments on how to write proposals. And we are actually working on with few states right now also as I speak. CANSA on climate smart agriculture. Now that was very tricky. It all started in around 2011-12 when people started talking about agriculture as a major source of emissions. 21% comes from emissions and all that. And there was a push from especially US organizations who within CAN who said, look, we have to go for mitigation obligation by all countries in agriculture. And we said, no, that won't work in developing countries. Primary and we certainly made argument, but then later on we decided to document them also. And our argument was, one, the land holdings in developing countries are smaller and they are rain fed. They are not irrigated. Mostly they are rain fed, and they are less mechanized compared to developed countries. So there are high emissions in developed countries where large stretch of land is being cultivated as a commercial farming and with machines and chemicals intensive farming. In developing countries, it's not the case. I mean, it's more subsistence level. Many countries have agrarian economy, and so climate smart agriculture for us would mean agriculture that can defend itself against extreme weather. That is climate smart agriculture. FAO also gave a term to climate smart agriculture. So that's when we decided we have to define what role agriculture plays in South Asia. Of course, we looked at a livelihood, and this paper actually helped us to build bridges with many of the government in South Asia. India, we interacted with India, we interacted with Bangladesh, Nepal, Pakistan, Sri Lanka. We interacted with them in length, and that's when we told them this is our position. They were hesitant to put their position in negotiations first, but later on they found that yes, that makes sense. And you can see, I'm also presenting similar findings in a SARC workshop 2 years back in Hyderabad, where I actually presented a role agriculture plays in South Asia. And we certainly said no mitigation. Of course, mitigation is required in agriculture sector, but on the energy use in agriculture, not agriculture itself. And that actually, this paper has helped us to do an advocacy at the government level, within the NGOs also, and within CAN also, discussing with our members from US CAN or CAN or Europe also. So we certainly, and that kind of discussion helped us to come out with more clarity. So that is one how we framed our position on climate smart agriculture. CANSA on energy transition, working with government. So this is where we have been talking about how renewable energy share need to go up, how fossil fuels are not playing an important role. We, in fact, in one of our paper, we also pushed for a regional grid for renewable energy, the South Asian grid for renewable energy. And we also pushed for trade between countries on renewable energy, solar energy from one country to another, or wind energy from one country to another. And that was later on reflected into SARC declaration also. So that was a win for us, because when we started making an argument, everybody liked it. Because what we also, and of course, one of the reasons why we thought that it is important is we thought that when the trade starts between countries, the conflict goes down. And in South Asia, I mean, we fight a lot among ourselves. So we thought when there will be dependence on economy on each other, there'll be less fight, there'll be more regional cooperation. And we always use regional cooperation as the basis of our own existence. Everywhere we start that, look, civil society in South Asia has come together, now it's time for countries to come together. So regional cooperation is very important, and our position certainly, reflect that all the, and this was reflected in SARC, which is an intergovernmental body. As I said, assessing climate-induced migration and policy response in South Asia. So two areas. I'm not saying that subtle advocacy is possible everywhere. There are two areas where we may have to go for some direct advocacy. One, we are disappointed with the way coal expansion is happening in South Asia, and we think now it's time to start calling them out, because naming shaming is important. We have worked on alternatives. Alternatives are working fine. Solar is and wind are affordable solutions. Technology is available. Grids are being upgraded. Everything is fine. But still, if government is investing into that, and basically that means they are favoring few business houses. And if that's the case, then it's time that we play a bit nasty role. In fact, immediately after this webinar, I have a call of smaller group of people who are going to discuss what to do in India on coal. So yes, so far we have built, and they understand our argument, but it's time that we start calling off, on coal expansion. Similarly, on migration also, there is a divisive agenda in play politically. Nationalist feeling, migrants are not welcomed and all that, while climate change is, creating more and more conditions where people are forced to leave their livelihoods because livelihoods are lost, and they are forced to migrate. And that's where, again, at the subnational level, we plan to go for a subtle advocacy, but at a national level, we certainly would like to, go for a bit overdrive. I would say that it's time. You cannot, ignore it. You cannot say that migrants are coming and spoiling our economy or society. You have to look to them as with the feeling of empathy, and provide them all kind of support. So legal support, social support need to be there. It's, as you can see this slide, we also amplify best policies and practices which government do. It's not only whenever they take our advice. Of course, we tell them that, look, this is what government is doing, without saying, hey, we told them to do this. But wherever government has done good, for example, in this, you can see government has also invested heavily into adaptation. So we converted them into dollars. We told that how much government of India is investing into adaptation. So we also amplify the good work they do, and they get to know that, yes, we are doing that. We don't show them, but they get to know from their sources that we are standing with them. Wherever the good practices are there, we criticize them. Wherever good practices are not there. Yeah, so I'll stop here. Yeah, I think I finished it in 40 minutes.
Great, perfect. Yes, thank you so much, Sanjay. I was just waiting for you to also, wrap up, and I already have some questions prepared, and there was a comment, a question also from our member here. So I will just give you a pack of 3, I think, and then you can reflect on that.
Yeah.
So my first question is about how you mentioned that we need to build a sustainable relationship throughout time with the people from the government, with the representatives, right? But also there is this question, and I think that you also might have this problem of people changing very quickly, and you cannot predict, like, because you don't have maybe a well-established democratic voting system or something like that, then you cannot predict who will be the next person to have this relationship with. And sometimes you need to be really flexible, and people change so fast. So maybe reflect on that, how you deal with that, because this is actually something that's happening in Ukraine right now, and not only in Ukraine, because there are changes in the ministries. And yeah, and then the second question is, you mentioned that so when we criticize, it closes doors, so they become closed, and so but does it mean that that mostly the advocacy that you've been trying to build is being done behind the closed doors? So this kind of an open mobilization part of the advocacy doesn't really work. And I understand that, of course, it's harder, but what are your thoughts on that? Which place does this kind of a public advocacy, like on the streets, has in all of this? And then the third, probably I will also kind of reframe the question from Gülşen. She's from Azerbaijan. Well, I think that it's important to also understand in terms of COVID crisis, in terms of how you're dealing with this right now. Maybe you already have some strategy connected to the advocacy, to the topic that we're discussing. How are you dealing with that? Because of course it influences the economy and the jobs, and this is the same with every country actually. So maybe a few thoughts on that.
Yeah. People changing, that's a problem in every country. People move from one place to another. So one, of course, we do not lose contact with those who were there, with whom we were interacting. But people who normally move, wherever they go, we stay in touch with them. They all normally tell us that, look, I'm moving at so-and-so place. I know one person who moved from Lucknow 500 kilometers to my city. And when we were working in that city, I reached out to him, said, can you introduce me to your successor? Because we want to do these things. So a call from him to the successor, and then we go and introduce, actually helped us to keep the doors open also. And slowly it becomes a part of institution also. People know CAN South Asia then. I mean, because so of course it starts from one person, they're getting introduced, working with the person, then that person builds your repo in but then it creates a network. It helps us to open doors in other places also. So that is one factor that has worked for us. Not sure if similar situation will exist in Ukraine or Azerbaijan, but our experiences in South Asia, that's the case. These are the same set of people who keep moving around, and plus it's also your work with them remains in that institution. Oh yes, CANSA people used to come. We used, or sometimes, even if you lose the contact from the older person, a new person has come, you go and introduce yourself, you quote them some examples. These are things that we did together. We would like to, work with you and all that. So that has worked well. And that's why, as I said, most important is building the rapport with them and building good relations with them. Telling them we are not threatening you, but if you're doing good work, we are with you. And if you're doing some mistakes, but with proper reasoning, we are with you. We'll work with you to overcome those mistakes. But if you have a vested interest, then no subtle advocacy will help. No, so then you have to call them out. But then rather than making an institution enemy, just look at that person who's not very positive. So that's one. So our advocacy is not always behind the doors. We certainly mobilize people also. We go out and we basically say, for example, we sign many declarations which are against government. We are signatory to them also, and these are things that we have been pursuing behind closed doors also. But at least in this, When we publicly go out, we are basically, looking at government of Bangladesh or government of Sri Lanka or government of India as someone who need to do it, rather than, see what happened, Olga. If I'm part of a bigger machinery, a government, if whole machinery is being criticized, fine. But if I'm being criticized, then I'm being, pointed within that machinery, and that's when I will go into, I will go behind a shell, and I'll also ensure that no one talks to you. So talking to a bigger machinery, saying, look, you need to, I mean, if I say government, look, stop investing into coal. You spent $80 billion last year only in importing coal. You could have built so many hospitals, so many schools, so much road infrastructure, etc., etc. I think nobody will say no. They won't see you as an enemy because you are talking sense. But if you say, look, forget about whole government, these three people or this department is not acting in positive manner, that's when department becomes. So it's not always closed door, but most of the things gets done in closed door. But publicly, we should put our positions known to everyone, that these are the positions we want to, and because we firmly believe in it, because science says so, and we think this is the best way forward. Unless government comes and tells us, no, there's other way which is more better than this. So we are willing to have that dialogue with you. Yeah, so that's one. So COVID-19 question I couldn't understand. I'm just trying to, yeah. But yes, what has happened, and this is an unfortunate, COVID-19 brought down the economy, and after that, what happened? Government is falling back in commercial mining of coal in India. India is one example I can quote you right away. We are not happy about it. That's not the way to generate money. That's not the way to generate livelihoods. They also didn't handle the situation of people who were working in cities. They were left without job during lockdown, and they returned back. In the conditions they returned back, that was also not good. So NGOs have expressed their happiness, and it's not only NGOs, it's media also. So government knows that they mishandled it. And that's where they don't see NGOs as a fault. They know that something was missing in them. So there is a large segment in government which is trying to work, and our assumption is based on this. There's a large segment of in the government who want to do something good. It's just that they don't know, and they end up doing some mistakes, and they don't want themselves to be held accountable on those mistakes. That's the care we need to take care in certain cases. I hope I answered your question, Gulshan. Thank you.
Gulshan, do you want to add something, or was it enough?
It was enough. I see, but your country is very big, and your people mostly are, how to say, poor people. I think your government cannot cover all of them, right?
Can you repeat last sentence?
It means that your country is very big and you have a lot of poor people, and you say that country do like this, but they cannot cover everything.
No, they cannot do everything. Yes.
Yeah, still you have problems. Yeah.
So I'm not saying we don't have problems. Yes, certainly. But all I'm saying is that NGOs should not start by directly criticizing. NGOs should try to work with them to find a solution to move ahead. And if that doesn't work and they're not listening, then of course you have a full right to go for active advocacy. But before that, there is a phase of subtle advocacy that has worked. As I said earlier also, I showed, because my topic was on subtle advocacy, I showed you those examples. Well, we have also done active advocacy also. In fact, I remember one of the negotiators used to tell us, whenever we cross immigration in our country, and when we are traveling outside, we see you guys on our side. But when we come back and you guys cross back in the country, you are on the other side of the table. You criticize us. So government has, mentioned that as an observation to us also. Yeah.
So maybe on COVID also, I just think that it might be a very kind of a practical example of do you work currently on some kind of a proposal for the government on like crisis management, something, because you said that the criticism is not the first step, but maybe that's what I wanted to kind of discuss a little bit of, or on a concrete situation that we are right now. What do you, how do you think to go? Because we also have, like, I analyzed some plans that the countries in EECCA region have on kind of going, overcoming the crisis, and most of these plans for economic recovery, they do not mention anything about climate change, anything about, maybe something about energy efficiency, or one word on some like clean technology or something like that, but that's it. And so right now different national groups have different strategies about that. They write official letters, they try to be public and be in media, but it's interesting to know what you are up to and how do you think to go forward with it.
In South Asia, NGOs had discussions among themselves then how to move ahead and how to deal with the climate change issue. So one, certainly civil society played an important role in providing relief during the lockdown. That was the first thing that we all did. That's not climate change, but that's certainly food security, or helping them to cope the stress of no job, no money with them. So that was the first thing, and that's where CANSA member organizations reached out to people who are returning back home, providing them food, coordinating relief effort, etc. Especially during lockdown, how to get permission to move some material from one place to another. All that work that we have done. Second, the most important part has been that how the economic stimulus works when the lockdown opens, and that's where we are criticizing them because they are falling back on coal, they're falling back on conventional source of energy, which is going to create more problem in coming years because our carbon footprint will go up. And that has been communicated. We have sent them a letter to minister also. There is a climate change committee chaired by opposition minister. So we have also sent a letter to him. Basically, members have sent a letter to him. So that has been sent to them for sure. But in terms of price control and all that, that has not been an issue here because government itself has taken measures on that. No hoarding happens. They took took a lot of actions on that. No hoarding happens, and in every way, the people during the lockdown gets all the essential commodities. So that has worked very
well. Okay, yeah, but okay, so so you say that one part is it's about criticism again, about the where the money goes from now, right? And so you will be looking into that more and maybe creating some kind of work around it as well, right? So,
yeah, like, I mean, at least we would like our government not to invest into coal as future investments. That's not that.
Yeah. That's similar with us, I think, and in Central Asia the situation is very, like, it's different between the countries, because when I was looking into it, for example, Tajikistan has only they only said that there was a pandemic at the end of April. So the situation was very kind of there was a lot of secrets and a lot of unofficial information, and which resulted in a lot of people infected, of course, and that's why they don't have a strategy to deal with the crisis, because they just recently finally said that there is a crisis. And
so for example, I can quote example of India. We have a Niti Aayog, which is a think tank, government think tank, who looks at all the policies. So there are members of Niti Aayog. So one person who was held responsible, that you will be responsible to coordinate with civil society in India. So, and he started interacting regular meetings with us and all. But another person was told to, continue to interact with the disaster risk reduction, states. Another person on corporates. So that way responsibilities are split, and most of the information was publicly available.
And yeah, another thing that I found that, for example, in Kyrgyzstan, they are rewriting this strategy for the third time because they doing the consultations with business, like with big business, and they cannot meet. I don't know, they cannot go to one solution, which is also, I think, very dangerous situation when, well, the document about the economic recovery, about the future of economics in the country is being based on the interests of the business, which is usually not the cleanest business on the table.
Exactly. Which is the case in South Asia also, and NGOs are calling them out.
Okay.
Which is the case in here also.
Yeah,
because see, from the government perspective, first priority is how to deal with the COVID-19 situations. Yeah, how to curtail spread. There should not be any more spread of COVID-19. Second priority would be economy, how to revive economy. Third would be climate change, environmental issues and all that. So keeping this issue alive during first and second phase are important. So that's the role that civil society should play. But let's not bring them forcefully. Let's bring them wherever they are required to be important. In economy, continue investing into fossil fuel will have an impact on next agenda item, which is climate change. We should bring it forward. So yeah.
Thank you. Maybe I will ask Gülşen again, if you know that the government has created some kind of strategy to deal with the crisis, or like maybe there is some new information on that, or they just keep you in the quarantine and there's no strategy.
Like this, now our government is busy with COVID. The number of cases are increasing. Almost, we are 10 million people, 10 billion people, Azerbaijan, and every day we have 500 cases. And it is very big amount. And our all hotels are almost busy with people in quarantine and with doctors who are working with COVID, because doctors cannot stay at home. And other issues that government give almost $100 to that people who are lost their job. For example, they were a street seller and now they're sitting at home quarantine, and through registrations through internet site, and they can get $100 per month for food, just for eating. Yeah, like this crisis, but we don't know, just the government believes that will be vaccine and people will return to their job. Yeah, and I don't know other strategic like this.
So this is the first step that you mentioned, of course, when you have the pandemic in really active stage, there's no other more important.
We have opened new clinics, new COVID hospitals.
New COVID,
people,
isolation wards and all that, yes.
Yes, right. And our government give vacancy announcement to come with COVID, like this plan. And we hope that it will be end.
Yeah, we're also hearing there is a anti-COVID viral medicine is out now.
No,
impossible. See how effective that would be.
They're treating with how to say antibacterial antibiotics, dexamethasone, and just some how to say H2O2. You know, this is disinfection, some disinfection things.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so in general, I understand that right now discussing the general advocacy topics and planning for our future campaigns is extremely hard, and we need to kind of adapt to the situation that changes every day. So I think that's why it's really hard to kind of bring people together right now and speak about these topics when there is a crisis going on. I think that, and I really want to thank you, Sanjay, for your time and for preparing this presentation. It will not be lost. And I actually think about doing some kind of a summary in Russian and writing some small article or something like that, because I really think that this is important. And I do understand that the times to talk about it is very hard. So it's not the same as didn't have any anything, and we could meet and, you know, discuss and to talk about these things and plan, because right now it's, yeah, anything that we plan that is not connected to COVID is just the second thing.
Exactly.
it goes behind.
That's true.
So I will just